Q&A for writing your journal article in 12 weeks eGrad module. Thank you for everyone that's here. And as you know, we'll be recording so that everyone can have the video as their wrap up. All right, so to begin with, QUT acknowledges the Turrbal and Yagara as the First Nations owners of the lands where QUT now stands. We pay respect to their elders, laws, customs and creation spirits. We recognise these lands have always been places of teaching, research and learning, and QUT acknowledges the important role Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people play within the QUT community. So this is what we're going to do today. Mostly it's about you guys and your questions. We're going to talk about arguments from week 2 and abstracts, which is from this week. And then we can talk about anything, of course. As I said, those of you who are here, if you want to pop questions in the chat, that's okay. If I don't get to them straight away, I will get to them. But it's lovely to see you all here. So just to start with, just a couple of reminders just to get us started. So a bit of housekeeping. I know that some of you haven't been able to log into the QUT Padlet, so I am sorry about that. So just make sure that you remember to pop your name into the posts so that we know who you are. We've done a bit of a rejig of some of the peer feedback groups when people were sort of stranded on their own. So you may have a new member. Alexandra has put a note in your Padlet if you do have a new member, just to tell you to welcome your new person. If your peer feedback group is not working as you would have hoped or expected, let us know, please. Email myself or Alexandra so that we can help you. And just also a tip is that next week there's no peer feedback activity. So that will mean that you've got next week to read each other's abstracts. So if you're working on them madly this week and you think, oh, I can't possibly get it done before the weekend, that'll be okay. Your peers will have time next week. So that's a good thing. And I think, you know, with those groups, work out what's best for everyone. If it's better via email than the Padlet, that's okay. Maybe you want to organise some Zoom sessions with each other so that you can actually meet and discuss how you're going. That would be good as well. So work it out with your group, what's best. And as I said, let us know if it's not working as well as you would have hoped in your group. Also bear in mind that some of the participants in the module tend to not get to it until the end of the week. So make sure you tell each other where you're at. You know, do you have time at the beginning? Do you have time at the end? So that everybody knows, you know, that they haven't been abandoned. My other peers are coming in at sort of the end of the week. All right, good. So time, that's been a bit of an issue coming up in some of the questions and a few emails that I've been getting as well. Don't panic, okay? If you've set up this beautiful plan in week 1 and then you're not always getting everything done, that's okay, completely normal. So hang in there. Oh, there's Murray. Hey, Murray. So everyone can meet Dr. Murray Lane.
Hi, Kerry. Hi, everyone.
Thanks for coming. Yeah, so don't panic. Be nice to yourself. You're one person. You'll get there. There's a lot to do. Stay focused is really, you know, so you're going to have good weeks. You're going to have bad weeks. You're going to have good days, bad days. Okay, so be nice to yourself and go back to week 1 if you need to about the strategies about procrastination and busyness. You might need a bit of a reminder, and also the Padlet that we had, the discussion forum on obstacles, was really good. So many people put in some really great ideas. So if you're feeling down, go back to week 1 and remember all of the aims that you put down and the strategies and maybe rethink some of your strategies if that's what you need to do. All right. Oh my goodness, I forgot to put the poll question in after all that, but luckily I actually have it on a slide. So Here was our poll question that I forgot all about putting in. All right, what do you think? Do you think you're on track with time and the commitment to the module and writing your article? Is your answer A, B, C, or D? Pop it in the chat for me if you can, so we can do a bit of a tally. This is the old school way, other than the Zoom polls. All right, we got a few Bs, got a few As, a C, a couple of Ds. All right. Okay. Does anyone want to turn on their mic and talk about why they chose the one that they chose? Feel free. I like that there's a lot of A's and B's. C's, you're being honest. That's good. If you're a D, what kind of support do you think you need? Is anyone game? You're all on mute. You'll have to unmute yourself.
I'm happy to talk.
Thanks, Marsha.
I said B, I think so, and I've overcommitted. So I've overcommitted in the sense that I'm also working on the final version of my thesis. But there's a lot of the readings and the stuff that I'm doing that are serviceable for both. So that's why I think it's still doable.
Excellent. Good. I like your positivity. That's good. Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else? No?
Yes, I'm on the same way as Marsha. I'm writing my final stage of the thesis, so that's why I popped a C. That's I'm a bit worried about. At the time, I'm all right with these first stages of the course, but I'm a bit worried in progressing in a few weeks how it's gonna be like.
Yep.
But it's really important to do it at this time, so I will do my best to get on track.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is to recognize that, as we said, that some weeks you are going to be exceptionally busy and you may only be able to spend, half the time you had hoped. So that's why communicate with each other in your groups. And as I said, you've got next week to do a bit of a catch up if you need. There's a little bit less writing as such. Next week, we're focusing on selecting a journal article. So a lot of reading actually in that more than the writing. So there's always opportunities to catch up and reach out, if you need a little bit more of a pep talk, which is a bit about what today is. So let's have a look at this pep talk. We'll keep moving. So I can see a few questions. We'll come back to those questions in a minute in the chat. Let's just get this bit done. So I think one of the key things that we're learning from the textbook from Wendy and in the module is, it's that idea of the focused timed sessions, and planning and blocking out some time where there's no distractions and where that you can just focus on what you're needing to do. I know for me, I try to do 10 things at once. And so you get little bits done. You want to be focused and say, right, I'm going to do whichever particular activity it is, or I'm going to write whatever section it is. So try to do that. As we said, some weeks will be busier than others. And I think it's a good time, week 3. So what are we, quarter of the way through? Go back to your 12-week calendar that you did in week 1 and maybe revise it a little bit if need be. Or if you think, okay, I didn't do as much last week, next week could be a week that you can put in a few more writing sessions. And as we, the article's not going to write itself. You've got to commit the time and being focused, and it's not a race. All right. I've just popped this in. I think that some of you have raised this in some of the Padlets, oh, I'm not sure if I should do it. I'm not sure if it's good enough. I'm not sure. So, again, don't compare yourself with the other people, even the people in your peer feedback group. I know from a lot of the people in the discussion Padlet saying, oh, I've got a 5-month-old baby. Oh, I have my own business. I'm writing up my thesis as well, and it's nearly due. So everybody has a lot of things going on. So don't, try not to second guess, stay positive, stay confident, encourage each other. And one of the things about imposter syndrome is sometimes when you read back a draft that you've written and you think it's not very good, that's because it's you and you're being really critical about it. So don't wait for it to be perfect, seek the feedback. So basically I'm saying don't have that imposter syndrome if possible. As soon as you've taken on to do this module, because obviously you think that you have what you need to get an article published. So keep that goal in mind. As Murray would say, keep your eye on the prize. So something interesting that was in the week 1B, I don't know if anyone's gone back to have a look at that, but I think this is really interesting and something to keep in mind if you are sort of feeling a bit overwhelmed at times, is look at how many people are either writing from scratch or with major revisions. It's most of the cohort. And I know this isn't indicative of everybody. This is just a small snapshot in time, but you can see there's only a few people that are doing minor revisions. Okay, so that means, from what I can tell, most people are medium, major, or writing from scratch, which means everyone has a lot to do. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're thinking about, oh, that person seems to be much more progressed. Potentially that's because they already had a draft. Someone's got their hand up. Kieran.
Hey, hi. Thank you so much, Kevi. Actually, kind of just wanted to explain my situation. It's kind of overwhelming right now. Maybe it's because like I'm in my last phases of working and like serving the notice period for a company. I just arrived in Australia, so it's kind of managing 2 time zones and other things. So maybe I don't know, like for this entire month, it's going to be like that, or I guess like first 15 days. But so I have answered actually A, B, and D.
Wow, way to go. So yeah, so maybe depends on what moment it is. Yeah. Look, so the time zones, that's a really important thing to let your peers know in your group, and just say, hey, I might be asleep when you post something, but when I wake up, I'll respond to you. And that's communication's the key.
Yeah, sorry, actually I'm in Australia right now, so not time zone issue is not for this class. Oh, sorry to clarify that.
That's okay.
Time zone is like for my other work thing, which I want to also get those things out of my way as quickly as possible so that I can focus. And also I'm little overwhelmed because of my stage 2 coming up in June. So I wanted to stay focused and write the article. So any recommendations from your side? Also, like keeping like peace of mind, like you said, you also do 10 different things at a time, and then it becomes quite hard. So
did you see last week in the wrap up in the video, I sort of gave I print out the calendar, which that's just me, and I just start each week, or I actually do it day to day almost, because my days can change at any minute. So I have a vague idea of the week, and then each morning I block out obviously when I'm teaching and if a meeting, so all those things that I can't change, and then find the little pockets of time within each day. And I try to divide it between, deep thinking stuff, so developing material or writing about research or whatever it might be, and then admin. And obviously admin, I don't need to think as much. And so, so if I've got a meeting and I've only got a half an hour, maybe I can get some admin done in that, so to make sure I'm ready for the meeting. So it's almost a reverse thing by saying these are the times I can't, but these are all the times that I can. So perhaps, you know, for you, you know, your job sounds like something you have to do, right? So block out that time, and then you'll find all the little bits in between. And
Okay,
yeah, so I hope
understood. Yeah, thanks. So
that's
thanks
it.
for, yeah. And then I guess this Pomodoro technique is also useful, but I don't know how to install it in QUT. Before, when I did my master's thesis, I had used that, but
What was that? What aren't you sure?
yeah, I'm just typing in here.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll move on, but you thank you for the Pomodoro. Yeah, so it's just setting a timer. That's all. Just set a timer for as long as you want. Yeah,
Okay,
25 minutes. Yeah, set the
understood.
timer. Put your phone away,
Uh-huh. Right,
and just nothing
Got
else
it.
open. Just writing, even with a pen and paper.
got it, understood. Thank
Right,
you.
thanks for sharing. All right, so the other reminder as well is, of course, this is a messy and a hard process, okay? If it was easy, everyone would have a publication. If it was really simple, you just sit down and you just start writing from the beginning to the end, wouldn't you? And we know that that's just not the case. And there's a lot of deep thinking, there's a lot of going backwards and forwards and writing of those drafts. So as I said before, if you're waiting for the perfect draft before you share your writing, you'll be waiting for a long time. So you need to let go a little bit and get that constructive feedback, and then come get the feedback, improve, and on you go backwards and forwards. So I really liked Jackie. I'm not sure if she's here. I hope she doesn't mind me pulling her. She did put it on the Padlet. So I thought that was really an interesting comment about feeling mentally exhausted. And it is exhausting. You're doing a lot of deep thinking, which is why, if you can, those little short bursts are going to probably keep that momentum going and helping you to focus. So, and then just the last sort of bit that I wanted to, just little reminders to as part of your pep talk. It's all about the reader. Okay, you're not writing for yourself. There's a reader-writer dialogue. We don't want the reader to work hard, which is why built into this module, we've got these peer feedback groups. You know, you need to check the readability. You'll look at something, and depending on how you go with your own proofreading, but you'll either think it's great or you'll think it's terrible, most likely, one or the other. So you need to get that feedback and it's probably somewhere in between, you know. And as I've said here, it's communication between you and the reader. If the argument and the significance why your research is important, if that's not clear, that communication is going to fail. So it's about the readability, the clarity of your ideas, the logic and the structure reading through. And the best person to give you that feedback is somebody else, not you. Okay. So one of the activities this week was around discussing your ideas potentially with friends or family. So I'm really interested in if anyone's done that as yet. So we are going to talk about that in a minute. So it's not just your peers and your supervisors that you can get feedback. Have a think about who in your life, who else is there that you could get that feedback from as well, because it is so important. Okay, so let's get into talking about arguments. So obviously that was yesterday, week 2. I haven't got any examples or anything today because I think there's enough in the textbook, and you've got your own arguments that you're drafting. So just remember, it's the point that you want to prove, and you've got your reasons and your evidence. And also to think about it, it's the formal investigation, isn't it? It's an inquiry. That's what your argument is about. You're going to inquire and show and demonstrate why your argument is right, and where it fits in your field as well. If you're still refining and revising your argument, that's okay. remember what I said, this module, you're going to be going backwards and forwards. You know, I don't think there'll be that many weeks where you'll be able to go, oh, well, that's done. I'll never have to go back and look at that bit of my article again. That's probably not going to happen. It's a work in progress. So if you're still refining, that's okay. Leave yourself notes to go back, you know, and it might even be a good idea if you are still drafting your argument, maybe do leave it for a week or two and come back, you know, at the end of next week, potentially. So while you're writing your abstract or drafting it this week, have it in there. And while you're looking at other parts of your article, maybe, you know, you'll have some kind of light bulb moment that'll go on and you'll be like, that's how I can improve my argument. So I actually, before we jump into that question there, there are quite a few questions in the chat. So I think we should pop into there. Just let me have a look. Yeah, so 2 hurdles, our own work obligations and the group progress is not always timely synced. Yes, so that's exactly right. Everyone has other obligations. So I think, as I said, with the peer feedback groups, really communicate with each other. Say to someone, hey, look, I'm really busy at work this week, but I'm going to log back in and be back into the group on Friday, you know, or whatever it is. Okay, just let them know. That's the best way around that. I'm in a shared office. Oh, okay. I'm struggling with issues other than time, focus. My time's too flexible. I need to prioritize. Yeah, so that's interesting. The person here in the chat has said when they were working, they had a project manager. Yeah, well, you're a project manager for your article and whatever other research is, if it's your thesis or whatever HDR degree that you're doing. So that's an interesting one. So I think, yes, all right, you've got to be really good with your planning and spend the time on the planning and try your very best to stick with those plans. Project manage. Starting from scratch, my stationary literature is not really a paper and I've been having trouble to adapt. Okay, yep. I think there's been a few people that have said a similar thing, that they're writing from scratch and so they're not sure whether they are going to be able to keep up with the tasks and as we keep on progressing. My advice to any of you is obviously you want to write a journal article. You can still participate in the module, you can still participate in the peer feedback activities by just writing 100, 200 words on whatever section that we're looking at. You know, it's not necessary that you need this huge piece of writing every time. My advice is keep doing the activities, and the ones that you find were really helpful, but you're not quite ready, just write a note and come back. Write some dot points, what your thoughts are at this point. So I think that persevere, because it's really going to set you up to have some kind of draft that you can then flesh out as you progress through the other stages of your research. Yep, so we've got working, part-time, yeah. So we do, everyone has 100 things that they need to do. So recognize it and say, okay, but every day, try to find that little pocket of time where you can be focused, make sure you're in a place where there's no distractions, and do your best, you know. Calendar is my project manager. Someone says non-negotiable writing times. They're like an appointment. You can't write, move that to sometime later and allocate time on Saturday. Do we share the first draft for grammar and then the supervisor later? I think with grammar, that's really something that you would want to get good at proofreading. So definitely I wouldn't be sending something to your supervisor that you haven't proofread and fixed as much of that grammar as you can. Your supervisor should then be able to point out to you any grammar or grammar points that you need to improve on, and then you do need to focus on those. All right, so that's good. We've answered everybody there. Does anyone want to share how they went with the argument tests? I'm actually going to pop into what am I popping into? I'm going to go into Blackboard because just 1 second. So I hope that if you haven't posted from week 2, obviously you don't want to go back, but please, if you have a chance, go in and read what people wrote, because it is pretty good. So does anyone want to jump in at all and talk about their experience of the argument tests, or should we just have a look through? Yep, thanks, Nick. Argument is the answer to the so what question. So that's interesting. It is. So the argument is what your whole point is, okay? It's almost like it's almost like a conclusion, right? So you're putting forward that this, well, let's have a look. Let's have a look at what the other people have said. I know that we had some people put their argument in. Let's have a look. Actually, there's mostly just people talking about the tests. So what do you think? So I changed my argument to that of the risk of, which I came to the speculative test. I realized it was too speculative, so I've changed it a number of times. So for this person, it was the speculative test. There's Jackie. She's the one I pulled out there. I admit to feeling mentally exhausted. So most of the people in here are saying that by doing the test, they actually went back and revised their argument. Okay, so the argument is the point that you are wanting to prove and to say, and then you've got all of your data to there as the evidence to prove it. So someone here, my argument didn't pass the test. It gives me a good idea of where I need to think more, and I spent time on it. That's good. Great exercise. My argument didn't pass some tests, and I found this enlightening. So the obvious test, it lacked spark. I will redo the exercises. So did anyone else have a similar situation where they started to do the test and then realized that they needed to revise it? Or the opposite, did anyone have a great argument and they were like, yep, tick, tick, tick? No, Hannah's shaking her head. We've got a few people in the chat. I found I revised the argument because it didn't cover fully what I intended to say. All right, that's a good one. I felt like with the paper that are a systematic literature, my arguments are a state of significance. Well, I found it hard to change from that. I think what you need to keep separate is the argument is the point that you're proving, okay? Whereas the significance is why the point you're proving is important. So try to separate them out. We get to that in week, Murray, is it week 5 or week 6? Must be week 6, I think, where we look at the difference between the two, okay? So I want you to remember the argument is the point you're proving, the significance or the so what is why. Why do we care about this point that you're proving? So they are similar, but they're different, and you need both, okay? So keep that in your mind. My peer group suggested my argument failed a certain test, so I went back and I reworded. Okay, that's great. So I guess, are we saying then that one of the best things so far would be those argument tests if we're going back and refining. This is an interesting one, the variables test. Did anyone have an experience with that one? Because we don't want our argument to just be a list of all the concepts, do we? I found a way to avoid the problem. I think the tests are interesting and helpful. What else have we got? Yeah. Yeah, writing down the argument, the topic test. So are you just stating the research topic? That's another thing we can fall into. Yeah, another one with the variables test. Yeah, didn't pass the puzzle answer. Yeah, focuses on the story. So yeah, you can think of your argument as the story. Yeah, okay, so pretty much everyone in here. Topic test. Yep, again, yeah. So I found that these, the people that have put into the discussion had a good experience, and it did in the end help them to refine. So if you're still refining, that's okay. Maybe go back to, leave a note to go back to the tests, you know, in a couple of weeks. Okay, anything else about arguments? Any questions, any thoughts before we move on? Anna?
Hi, everyone is so silent, so well behaved. I actually found, I mean, I've written theses before, so I'm doing this without actually doing any formal study at the moment, but preparing for it. So what I actually found through going through these tests is actually, it kind of lit there was a light bulb about not having actually addressed these questions when I wrote my previous work. And in the last few days, and of course I went into all sorts of, you know, all the sort of
Panic.
things, oh, look, all sorts of negativities and positivities and God knows what I think, like everyone else. But recently I've realized things have changed a lot from the past, and the argument tests really helped me clarify my thinking, but also, and I know I've still got a lot of work to do on it. And I think that even with my colleagues on in the peer group, it's been fantastic to be able to discuss and talk about these kinds of tests and how they help us clarify where we're moving forward to. There's Nicole. Hi, Nicole. One of my peer members. All right. Okay. I'll leave it at that. But
No,
I think they're fantastic.
Thanks.
Personally, you know, I'm 67, girl, everyone. So, you know, I'm kind of like back in the 1980s or something. And it was a very different scenario in academia. And I'd never been encouraged to write journal papers because it wasn't kind of, you know, done as much, I don't know, a whole lot of things. But now I really want to, because there is another study that I want to do, and I want to do this before I actually embark on the study. And what's these arguments and this work is doing is actually preparing me for the work I'm going to have to do with the dissertation.
Great. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. That's great. And as I said, it's about promoting the discussion in the first place, you know, and I suppose that's one of the key things about the textbook is it makes us think about a whole lot of things which are hard to think about, which I think is then this vicious circle that we have saying, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I don't have time. And because it's hard. It's hard thinking that you have to do, and it's deep thinking that you have to do. And if there is any distraction or even an inkling in your mind, oh, I don't know if I can do this, that makes it even harder, doesn't it? So if you can figure out the time of the day or whatever in your schedule where you have that opportunity to really deeply think without the distractions, And then the preamble to that could be when you're on the bus, when you're in the shower, when you're wherever you are, and you're thinking, and then it's almost in your subconscious. Write down notes and then come and think about them even more deeply in that time that you have. So,
Carrie.
yes.
Hi, everyone. Nicole here, and lovely to hear from you, Anna. We've been chatting quite a bit in our peer group. I just wanted to mention the time schedule has been such an effective tool for improving my writing, because I'm a timekeeper. I literally write down when I start and when I finish. And by the end of that, I can see, oh, that 45 minutes went really quick, or goodness, where did an hour and a half go? Or I can really notice when I'm starting to, write in a circle and lose my train of thinking and it's time to finish, So yeah, that's been a really useful way of keeping me focused and developing good writing habits. So
Right.
thank you for that.
No worries. Thank you, Nicole, for sharing. Yeah, it is. It is. And I don't know if any of you were able to go in and read that article by Boyce about the academics and the busyness and the procrastination. That is me to a T, where, how are you? Busy? I'm always busy, and I meet my deadlines, which is a good thing. But definitely it's a work in progress. And so, just trial what works for you and where, that's something that I really gained from the book when I used it, when I was finishing up my thesis and I had to get a publication. And that idea of, well, where do you work best? We assume it would be at our desk, but it may not be. I used to go to the pub across the road, the club across the road, and I'd look at everybody drinking and eating and having fun and think, when I'm done, this will be me. And it was, but because I could block all of that out. And it seems a weird thing. Or coffee shop, I can block all that out. But in the office, I can't always block it out, because it could have something to do with me or whatever. So it's not even necessarily your desk. And while we're here, and just before we get on to our abstracts, something I should have brought the book, it is in my bag, but I've gotten into a guy that it was written a book called Productivity Ninja. Has anybody heard about that? It is amazing. I have 0 emails in my inbox. So if you want to be like that, I would really recommend Productivity Ninja. And and one of the things I was going to say about how when we're writing and doing these activities and giving the peer feedback, it's the deep thinking time. And he really talks about the fact that your brain can't always do that deep thinking. So figure out your times when you can, and everything else is basically admin. Answering emails, that's admin. Don't use your deep thinking time up for the admin tasks. So yeah, it was such a brilliant book. I'm still not actually all the way through it, but one of the things about emails was magic. Honestly, I have not, my inbox is at 0. So it's pretty cool. All right.
Hey, Carrie,
Yep. Put the
I want to go back to a point that Nicholas raised in the chat earlier about a kind of a definitional thing about an argument.
Oh,
I
your
think
microphone
certainly-
is really weird.
Oh, how's that? Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Not that well. Try again.
How's that?
No. Do you want to come in here?
Oh, actually, how's that? Because I've just unplugged it.
No. It's really fuzzy. Sorry.
Hang on a
Anyway.
sec. Maybe I just changed the. Maybe you move on. I'll just test my mic.
Oh, Jacqueline's, thank you. Jacqueline's put the Productivity Ninja in. And there's a question in the chat about Grammarly. Not sure. Sorry, Kieran, you'll need to double check through HiQ to see if you've got Grammarly. What's the video, Jackie? Is it about Productivity Ninja?
Yes, sorry, it's a product. I hit enter too soon. It's the Productivity Ninja guy. Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah. So you've read that book?
No, I just Googled him.
Oh, good.
I will be though.
Good multitasking. Yeah, honestly, so good. So good. And the other thing he talks about is that in your brain, exactly the big picture and the little picture. So the elephant is doing all the big, deep thinking and the big picture, and the monkeys are doing the chatter, chatter, chatter every day. And the monkeys will, if you listen to the monkeys too much, you're missing what the elephant wants to do. So yeah, it's really, really good. Do you want to try again, Murray?
Yeah, how's that?
Ah, super.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back to a definition of an argument, because for me as well, it's not something that I really come across before as a term before reading Belcher's book. But I found on page 67, it helps to clarify what it actually is. And there's this really good definition of it's an argument is a confirmed hypothesis or an answered question. So a confirmed research, because usually you talk about kind of a research hypothesis or a research question, but really it's just the same words that you're likely to find in those statements of the hypothesis or question, but just perhaps rearranged in a different context.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why today I thought I'm not going to go on and on, because there's good examples in the book, and from what we saw in the Padlet, just by going through those tests, and also the ones I love when it's masquerading as an argument, I think they were really good as well. So yeah, I know that the key thing about the argument is keep it separate from the so what. Okay, the argument is, what is your point? What is the thing that you are arguing here? What do you want? What's the ultimate conclusion going to be? So and then the so what is, why do we care about that argument? All
yeah,
right,
so what implies that that you've already spoken about a what, like it. I suppose technically it seems a little bit like a why, but in the context of research, we usually talk about what happened, like the results, for example, and then talk about how that's significant. So that's the so what.
Yep. If so what is a bit confusing, switch it to who cares. That might be an easier way to think of it. So here's my argument, but who cares? Who cares about this argument? Well, hopefully your stakeholders will care, because you're wanting to improve best practice or a process or a theory, or you're, making somebody's life somewhere better in some way. So for Nicole, who posted, Nicole, when you posted about your argument, you're wanting to make maths something that's more accessible, right? If you want to jump in, Nicole.
Hi, everyone. Look, that statement is only possible because I've already written my thesis. So there is no way a few years ago I could have just cracked into an argument like that. Yes. So I know what my thesis is now telling me after completing it. So it's much easier to develop that argument. So I had to be fairly confident that what, the story as it unfolds is going to back this claim, because it hasn't been done before in this way. It's quite a unique context.
Yeah. But your who cares is different to your argument, because your who cares could be, well, who cares whether kids are good at maths? but we know what the answer is, that, or that maths is accessible, or that it explains things in different ways. And that's fairly obvious why kids care about math, why we should care about kids and maths. So I think if you can try to keep them separated a little bit, the argument and the significance, that should help. Both are super important, of course. All right, so let's talk about then, this is basically the last slide that I have, which is good because we've nearly come to the end. Drafting your abstract. Does anyone want to jump in and say how that is going? It is a bit counterintuitive, isn't it? Did any of you think, oh my gosh, why are we doing that? Don't you normally do that at the end? Was that something you thought about? I'm going to assume yes. So then by reading and starting the tasks and the activities, are you convinced that this is going to be helpful in the end to have that outline? It's an outline, isn't it? Really, your abstract.
I was going to suggest, like, I followed the Sai-Kwa or whatever guideline for writing an abstract. And then right beside me, I had an example of something that had been written that was similar to my research area. And then when I got to the end of writing it, I thought, gosh, that's a lot of words. And then I went back to, look at what the framework suggests. And it says, yes, you do need to write at least 8 sentences, and it can be a bit longer. And then I didn't even get to the humanities or whatever framework. And I saw in the first line that somebody had contextualized by country. And I was like, oh, actually, I hadn't decided what journal I'm going to. Maybe I actually need to do that style, So I'm still formulating that. Like, what's the best journal?
Which is what we do next week. And that's a really good example of the iterative process that you're going to have to keep on going back. So David's just put into the chat. Thanks, David. Yeah, it helps shape it, but you probably need to go back. I would say you definitely need to go back once you've written, but what it helps you to do also is see the sections that definitely need a lot more work. And then you might have other sections, so maybe methods, let's say, that's actually looking quite good. So it's a little bit of an outline, a bit of a plan to orientate where you're at and the bits that you really need to focus on a lot. And again, I haven't got examples here because there's so many examples in the book that are really useful. And of course, one of the tasks is, exactly as Nicole said, is having a published abstract and having from your field and having a look at what that looks like and using that as a guide as well. And then just in the chat, I was able to state background, significance, goals, and possible methodology. That's excellent. And for the task, so that you can get some peer feedback, even if it's just some dot points, or at least a few sentences. It's all right if you have a section that you're saying, I'm not quite sure yet. Get something down so you can get some feedback. So for some, I remember we just had a look, there's a lot of people writing from scratch. That's okay. You can still get some kind of draft together with what you think it's going to look like. Okay, because even if you're still in the process of the research, you would have some anticipation of what you're expecting. Yes, it might need to be revised, but at least get something down. I think that's really important. And I wanted to ask, one of the tasks was to seek some feedback from friends or family, somebody that's not necessarily an academic or a researcher. Has anyone done that? I'd be interested to know.
I sat down with my teenage daughters and husband and attempted it. There was a bit of confused looks and I found it quite difficult, particularly like my youngest daughter there was 14. And so I had 3 daughters there. my eldest one was actually quite interested. And so I found trying to explain to teenagers quite like business concepts quite difficult, but it forced me to sort of distill what was actually important. We did this at the dinner table. So by the time I'd finished dinner, I'd sort of forgotten my thoughts that I had in the process.
You need a pen and paper at the table.
Yeah. So I'll have to repeat the process
Yeah,
again.
or press record.
You
might have to let them know ethically. I don't know.
But at the time, I realized, even though I thought I was explaining things without jargon, I actually was. There were so many assumptions about understanding. And when you've got a 14-year-old who just, had no idea, like they didn't know what board directors were.
Right. Yeah.
So,
but
which was what.
Yeah. So that's probably a term in whatever journal you go for. Your audience
that will be
know that. Yeah. So, but
it was. So it was probably not the best audience, but it did highlight. And I went around in circles when I was explaining it too. So
okay. So you need to be more focused and sharp when you're
So they were a good pilot, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Because we do have another activity similar to that coming up in a few weeks, from what I remember. So So if you haven't tried it, I would recommend. So I think what Jackie's saying, maybe avoid teenagers, which could probably be a blanket rule for everything in your world. But that's, I guess. But then again, if you can explain it to them and they can have an understanding, it probably is. They're going to be your hardest audience, Jackie, I would imagine too, by the way.
They were, but I think my 17-year-old was interested and she got it.
Great.
And she's studying business. So I thought, okay, it's not a complete loss, but I'll trial it with my oldest children, one of whom's doing an MBA. So I'm hoping he might be a better audience.
Yeah. Good. Well, thanks for sharing. Someone said in here, writing my abstract made it clear to me what I was banging on about. Awesome. Got feedback from a family member who was a paramedic, and she said it raised her interest, and you got it waiting for a layperson. Okay, Tam needs her or his peer feedback group to jump on board. Helped a lot to clarify by talking to a partner. All right. Oh, okay. So Marsha, so now you have a whole range of papers you need to write, not just one. Is that what you're saying? Yes. Okay. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's not a good thing.
It's a bit of both.
A bit of both. All right. So then is the point there then, if they're saying, oh, here's a whole lot of other things you could address, does that mean you need to narrow further, or you've narrowed too far, do you think?
I think they're separate papers. I think they're other issues and other research.
Right.
But they're worth considering later on. Okay.
All right. So a useful exercise in the long run then. Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. Good. All right. So I just think we've only got a few more minutes. Anna?
I was just going to say that Nicole did put up her argument on the peer discussion group, and I thought it was really good. Like I felt like I really wanted to read the article. It was very clear. I just thought, well done, this is great. As a first attempt. I mean, she may want to change it and we be talking in the future, but it was really good. So the exercise was good for me because reading, it actually clarified her argument a bit more for me. So if that means anything, and what she's actually doing with her research.
Yeah. And the other thing with the combination of the argument and the abstract, what we've been working on these couple of weeks is you need to engage the reader, okay? And your argument is what will engage the reader initially, and then your who cares will also go hand in hand to engage them. And then remember as well, what do you guys do when you're searching for, searching the literature? Do you quickly skim the abstract to figure out whether or not to read it? Usually we do, right? So the people are going to be doing the same thing with you as well. They're going to skim your abstract. So if it's really clear and to the point and your argument is there front and center, and then your significance is there, that's going to hook them in. Okay, so again, and then how do you check all those things? By seeking feedback. So you don't just think about your peers and your supervisors, as I've said, see if there's somebody else that you can run your ideas by. But certainly during this module where, you know, you have your peers there. So I want and hope that everybody will engage. And, you know, at the moment we've just got, you know, short sort of drafts that we're looking at. And then come sort of midway through, we'll start to have our draft articles and getting feedback on all the different sections there. So get into those good, you know, communicating and working out what's going to work for your group. As I said, if you're having any issues, if you haven't been able to connect with your group, please let us know, because within the peer feedback groups, most of them, people are engaging really well, you know, and that's what we're here in the module, is to support and encourage, give that feedback so that we can achieve that ultimate goal of having a draft that we are ready to submit for publication. All right, so anyone else got any other questions at all at this stage? Nope. And so if we go back to our question at the beginning, I'll just pop back. I wonder if after talking, I'll just go back, sorry. Yeah. Anybody changing their mind from their C or their D? It'd be good if you were. No. Nope. Oh, B's okay. B's all right. It was more the C's and the D's. I was hoping a little bit of a pep talk. You know, remember your goals. Oh, good. Sharon's gone from a D to a B. Awesome. B from C. Excellent. All right. That's what we wanted. It's about, you know, we're all in this together. We're all here. We've got the same goal. You know, when we put this module and promoted it, within no time at all, we had, you know, a couple of hundred students wanting to participate. So obviously it's something that we all are passionate about, our research, and then wanting to get it published. And, you know, yes, it's a lot of hard work and a lot of time invested, but it will be worth it. And also by following all the activities and doing the drafts and getting the feedback and all of those things, when you do send it off for publication, yes, potentially it's going to come back with a few revisions to make, but hopefully you'll have done such a good job that that's all it'll be, you know, and you'll be so close to getting that DOI, which is, you know, going to be a great achievement. And it's certainly the goal that everybody's working towards, and we're all in it together, remember. Oh, great. So from a C to B, and being nicer to myself, use the insights provided and change from a C to a B. That's awesome. Good, good. So if anybody else have another question,